Recording.
Okay.
And we'll start with like basic questions and then I'll try to build into it. If there's anything you don't want to answer or you feel like you already answered, just let me know and we can.
Okay.
Okay, so let's start. Tell me your name, your hometown, and one word about how you're feeling today.
Okay. So wait a minute. So my name, tell me again? The name?
Name, your
Uh-huh.
hometown,
Hometown.
and one word about how you're feeling today.
Oh, okay. My name's Bobby Banks. I'm residing in Southern California and I absolutely feel fabulous today.
Awesome. And what is your career title?
I am a supervising sound, dialogue, and ADR supervisor.
Awesome.
Mhm.
So, talk to me about what was your childhood like, and specifically if there was anything in your life as a kid that motivated you to get into the arts or sound.
I'm going to say that not childhood because some people's childhood is not that great,
Yeah.
right? So let me see. I can say that growing up, I liked watching films, going to films, but I didn't have like that burning thing like I really want to work on a film.
Mm.
I just enjoyed, well, back then it was like TV. Was like going to the movies. um, a lot of television and movies and that kind of thing. But I'm just enjoying going, but I really didn't have that drive to pursue a career at that time.
Okay. Awesome. So, talk to me about what exactly ADR is and what your common day to day is like working in ADR.
Okay, so ADR is automatic dialogue replacement, where the actress have to do their lines over again because there's noise in the background, or the director wants to add lines for the scene for to tell story, comedy lines, that kind of thing. For ADR, we sit with the director and the film editor, and we go through the entire film and we talk about like areas that we might have to do over again because the scene was recorded, it has a lot of noise in the background or wind machines or ocean or something like that, and it's something that we can't get out technically. So then after that, then I go to the cutting room and then I go through the whole film again. I write down like cue sheets, like the beginning and the ending of the word. Then after that, someone has already put stage on hold, got the actors, let the actors know just how much time we're going to need them for. Then the actor comes to the stage. Um, a lot of times the director is there. Sometimes they're not, just because of business reasons. They might have other meetings and things like that, depending on where they are in the project. And so I'm there and I just have to, we have to direct them to do the lines the same way that they recorded them in production. And sometimes the challenge is that, when they come in to do the ADR, it could be like 8 months to a year after they've actually recorded the original production. So they're already in a different headspace, right? So, because they could be on another project and they've got to switch, and get back into character for that. And, so it's not easy. And so, like, the directors don't like it, the actors don't like it. It's like you have to perform all of a sudden a beep, beep, beep. And on the fourth beep, you got to say the line and try to get it right, the first time, because then try to do it over and over again. So, um, and, the thing is with the actors or even the directors, you just have to figure out like what kind of day they're having, like quickly, and just really try to get trust with them, because you really want to have the best performance for them. It's not just, I just need to do this line over again. You really want to give them a good performance. So that trust is really, really important. And then after we record it, then I have to cut it, or we have other editors that may have to cut it to the picture so it looks in sync. And then we mix it just like we mix all the elements together at the end.
Wow, that was amazing. I love that. Awesome. Um, so why did you gravitate towards ADR long term instead of something else long term like Foley or music?
Mm. When I was in New York and I was cutting Foley, like I really enjoyed cutting Foley. Um, but when I was an assistant to some ADR supervisors, and Jane McCulley was one in New York, and Beth Bergeron was here when I moved to LA. And so I was able to go to the stage with them, and just watch how they dealt with the actors, and, seeing the outcome of it, and just see how, because I'm an artsy kind of person. And so, and create, like real creative kind of thing. So I really liked how, the whole process of it worked. It's just like when you have group actors and you have to recreate a whole scene, like say at a club or something, or a stadium or a concert, and they have to pretend that they're in the concert. So the creative way of all of it is to, keep recording in layers and layers,
Mm.
so that when they and then cut it, and then when they get to the final mix and mix it with all the music, and then the people see it and you feel like you're there, right? So that's the whole thing. It's like, I want the audience to feel like they're in that space. So it's just like a creative, like, what can I do? What's going to work together and stuff like that. So I think that's how I really started gravitating more towards ADR.
Awesome.
And I like people, right? I like to deal with people and challenges.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's important. Awesome. Awesome. Um, you answered that. How did you get hired for your first few jobs? And do you want to like talk about what your very first movie or TV show was that was your like big break?
Okay, so I worked at Sound One in New York, and I actually was an assistant to the executive assistant to the owners. So, and then I was an assistant bookkeeper. So it had nothing to do with technically anything. And so I saw us, Roberta was working in the sound effects library. So I would like travel to different departments to see what they did. So I decided, oh, I want to try to, maybe I can do what she's doing, like cleaning up the effects in the library, and so I did like stuff on my lunch hour. And then that's really what I wanted to do. And they're like, well, we really need you back here and back in, administration. And I go, well, I really want to try this. So they actually cut my salary. They're like, we're going to cut your salary. It's going to be less money than you're making now. And I go, okay. And I was a single mom then. But I really wanted the challenge. So I did that for a while. And then after that, I chose sound effects for clients. Um, and then after that, they really wanted me to come back to administration. So I did that for a while. Then they had a challenge for me because they knew that I really wanted to be more technical. So they asked me to run the machine room for a mix. That means like all the patch bays, getting everything that the re-recording mixer needs. And back then we had dubbers, so you had to thread stuff up.
Wow.
And I had 6 weeks to learn and learn the projector, how to thread it. I knew nothing because I didn't go to school for anything. I'm just green. So I had my little notebook and I drew pictures, and I had a really good teacher, Peter Riley. And then 6 weeks later, I had my first mix and I did good. So then after that, I did that for a year, and I wanted to mix, but they said it would be like 5 to 7 years. And when you're young, 5 to 7 years is like a really long time. So I'm like, I don't have time for this. So I decided to quit. And I started handing out my resume, and I got hired by Maurice Schell on Desperately Seeking Susan as an apprentice on Madonna's film. So that was my introduction. And we worked like 100 hours a week for 6 weeks.
Wow.
So that was my introduction to film. But it was great. I had great teachers. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, so now, are you mostly freelance, or would you say you tend to work for the same studios over and over? And which lifestyle do you like the most?
I've actually been freelancing since 1985.
Okay.
I've never been under contract with anyone, although, I may work at a particular company for quite a while. But it's not to say like I can't work at another studio because I freelance.
Okay.
Um, but I have Greg Hedgepath, who's a supervisor as well. We've worked together on like 40 films
Wow.
and a few TV shows together. So, we work together a lot, and so we just travel a lot. I mean, I've worked with different supervisors too, but mostly, Greg and I have worked together.
That's amazing.
Mhm.
Um, okay, I hope this question makes sense. After you first got started and did your first few projects, what was the first film or TV show that made you feel like, okay, I finally made it. I know exactly what I'm doing. I feel like I'm a fully professional person.
I don't, I don't ever feel that I've made it
Mm,
because each project is different, and I just care about everything I do, and we're always learning stuff.
mm,
So that part, I would not really apply to me, that I feel. Um, um, John Singleton hired me on Poetic Justice, and at the end of that film, it was my first supervising ADR job. And towards the end of the film, there's a scene with Janet Jackson and Tupac where they're sitting on the side, they're at the beach, they're sitting on the side. We had to do that whole scene over in ADR, all of it. And like I said, this is my first supervising ADR job. And I just when you if you ever get a chance to look at it, and look at it in the sense of that was all re-recorded.
mm,
They did a great job, and you can't tell that it's not production. And so I think on that, it just made me feel so good, and it's like, man, they really, John and Bruce Cannon, who's the editor at that time, really trusted me enough, to do this project. And so I mean, I have a really great affinity for that project
mm.
because of that. And so I think if you ask me about my first project, that would be it.
Thank you for sharing that. That was lovely.
There, I do. There's another project John did called Higher Learning, and in that one, it's about. Have you seen it?
Of course.
I don't know. So you know how Michael Rappaport, he was always Cole Hauser wanted him to be part of the Aryan Nation, and that whole struggle with him, and that scene. There's a scene where he's in his dorm room and he wants to take his life.
Mhm.
And so and in that scene, it's like really intense with breathing, a gun, like shaking of the gun, and the music. And that's such an intense scene because of all of, all the angst that's going on, and it's just him breathing. So it kind of also tells you that not only can you create tension with people talking, but you can do it with just breathing, with somebody's breathing. So we had to do all that breathing over.
Wow.
You know, just and you have to find the right breath to, at the right moment and and stuff like that. So it's like, those are the creative things that, that is really cool to do.
Wow. I love that. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you actually mentioned that you didn't go to school,
Mm-hmm.
especially sound. Um, do you feel like now it has become really important for people to go to school to get into film and TV post-production sound, or do you feel like people can still get into it without going to school?
I believe that you can still get into it without going to school. I do think, though, that there are some good programs that maybe won't be like 4 years of your life or 2 years of your life. There's some really intense training schools that I think are really good, because what happens when, just like most jobs that you may have gone to, careers that you may have gone to school for, when you are there on the job, things are different. Sometimes, like some of the people, kids that I talk to from school, they have a whole different way that they think things should be. And so it's almost kind of like having to unlearn some of the things that they've learned
Mm,
order to really flow in what they need to do and to be open to learn from other people, because sometimes they just think that they know it all and they can't really hear. So I think that if someone does go to school, I think that's a huge plus,
mm,
because then they can learn all different aspects of things and how things work together. So I wouldn't say, like, don't go to school, or that your time is wasted at all, because it's not. I think that once somebody graduates, they just have to be open enough to really listen and learn and take what they learned in school plus what is going on in their active role that they're doing.
awesome. That's great.
Mhm.
Awesome. So okay, you also mentioned that I didn't know about you that you started in New York and then you moved to California. Um, what prompted you to relocate? And now in 2020, especially with COVID and things like that, do you feel like one market has become better than the other? And do you feel like other cities are becoming good markets for people to work in sound?
I moved basically because I think that at the time that there was more work here. So, and at the time it was either LA or New York to be in that place. And so that's basic. And I had, small children and things like that. So I was like, well, let me just try. And when I got here, I got a job within 5 days.
Wow.
I got a job. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Awesome.
And also at the time, there was, because we belonged to a union, but at the time, there was a waiting list of 5 years to get into the union.
Whoa.
And so I was like, oh my gosh, like, like, what do you do? And so it turned out I was working at Canon here in LA, and the union at that time wanted them to sign a low budget agreement. And so they wanted us to strike. And I was like, well, what do we get? If we're going to strike, like, okay, what if we do, what do we get? And so that's how I got in the union. They go, what do you want? I go, I want to get in the union. So that's how I got in the union. Like within, it was not even a year that I was here that I got in the union.
That's amazing.
So it just turned out to be the right place at the right time. And, that's what I was supposed to be doing. I think currently, you've got New York, you've got LA, you've got Atlanta now that has, post production. And I think another one that's going to be rising up soon is New Mexico, because Netflix, from what I hear, is going to be doing post production there. because they do a lot of production. There's a lot of shooting that goes on in New Mexico. So I think that that's going to be another place to go.
Interesting. Okay.
Even with the COVID thing is, a lot of people now work from home.
Yeah.
I think the challenge, well, I was going to say the challenge is during the mix. However, I just finished working on Coming to America too, where I wound up having to be part of the time during the mix at home. So I was able to listen to the mix and hear them in case they needed something right away. And then, then I have to send it, through a spare and stuff like that. So there is a way to be at home and be at the mix at the same time. So I think that, it just kind of opens up. But, we're people that are used to being with people. We miss that interaction. And even though we're on Zoom, it's still like I can't touch you, or I can't, you know what I mean? It's good, but the personal part of it is kind of lacking a little.
I agree. Cool. Um, what do you know now in terms of your work, your career, your craft that you didn't know when you were younger that you wish you knew?
Mm. Well, first of all, when I worked at Sound One, I didn't know, and this is like people laugh, they still laugh, but I just thought all they did was record it and shoot it with the camera, and that was it.
Mm.
Right. So when I worked in the machine room, I'm looking at all these dubbers, right? And I was like, what is this? And they're laughing at me because that's really my perception of what a TV show, a film was. That's all they did. They just recorded and shot it, and that was it. I didn't realize that there was, like a whole process to everything. Um, I don't. I think that the more you work and dealing with people, I think is the biggest, those are the biggest lessons,
Mm.
learning how to get around certain situations and, collaborating with people. And I think had, maybe if I knew a bit more of that in the beginning, but I think everything just kind of took its course the way it was supposed to. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, this is getting into a slightly different part of your career path. And let me know if I say anything incorrectly. So you were the president of MPSE, and the longest serving president even at this point. So while you were in that position, what were some of your goals there, and what did you really like about being in that leadership position?
Well, Motion Picture Sound Editors is one organization for sound editors globally. TV shows, games, films, streaming. I mean, just the whole gamut. And I served on the board of directors for maybe 12 years prior to that. And so, you just get a love for the people, and the thing is, a lot of people don't know what we do. And so it's trying to, educate people and trying to collaborate with other organizations, because it's actually, like a whole team effort. One thing that MPSE did that we were able to enhance on was we started sound shows where you take a film and you can have like the picture editor, the director, composer, if you can, to come and be on a panel. So everybody picks a particular film, they pick a scene or two from that film, and they kind of break everything down as to the teamwork, like, starting from production all the way down to re-recording mixer. And so then that way, we were able to travel around. We went to Germany, we went to NAB, different places so that, trying to just educate people on what we do. Because, I mean, it's like nobody really knows what Foley is, or, sound design and re-recording, that kind of thing. And so, just trying to enhance that. I think that, while I was president, it's a team effort. The whole board is a team effort. We had golf tournaments, like fundraising and things like that for the community. But I think the sound shows were like the best thing, and then the award show, Golden Reels Awards,
Mhm.
because then you get to highlight the hard work that everybody, does all year long. And just to be in that room, it's like, I would just like always cry. I always cry, because everybody, we spend so much time together, on different projects and stuff, and everybody works so hard that it's just so great to be able to, honor them.
Aw-
So,
Awesome. Um, okay. I think I have like two questions about technology, if you care anything about technology.
okay.
Um, how has workflow and of course technology changed from when you first started all the way into now?
Well, it was from film to now a computer. And I have to say, I still, even though I can't do everything I can do now with technology with film, I still like film. I like the feel of film. I like the fact that you're always moving. At that time, we had, so it's oxidized. So we had, you put white paper tape, you get a razor blade, and you like feather out the sound. You feather off of the oxidation, off of the soundtrack, and all that kind of stuff. And it's like creative. So I miss that. And
Okay.
everybody felt like a dinosaur. And they always go, it's not coming back. And I'm like, oh, I don't care. Especially like when the computer goes down or something, something happens. I was like, see, it wouldn't do that if it was film. But certainly with like Isotope and different plugins that we have now, we can actually do a lot more work and more creativity with it. So I just have had to resign. But a lot of people, unfortunately, weren't able to make that transition because when it first started switching over, there were like 5 different systems that you had to learn because you never knew what company, especially if you're freelancing, you never knew what company had what equipment. So you had to be really versed on these 5 different things, which, it was an awful lot to learn, and it can be a little intimidating, and sometimes when, they're constantly upgrading and changing, and adding more things on the plugins. And, if you, I think, not technically inclined, it can be a little difficult, to try to get a handle on it and just make it a smooth transition. I still get stuck sometimes.
So when did you first learn Pro Tools? I'm curious.
Oh my gosh, I don't even remember. I don't even remember what year that was when it came out. It was, what was it? We first had the Cyber Frame, and I don't remember, like, I think it was Pro Tools then. Then there was Mac. It was like, I just can't remember. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine. Awesome.
I can't go on the computer.
Uh okay. So the next few questions are going to be about mentorship and demographics working in this field. So the first question is, when was the first time you worked closely with another woman in the sound department, and specifically another Black woman in the sound department?
Oh. There's not that many of us all together. Um, well, I want to say Barbara Harris. Barbara Harris she is a loop group casting person,
Nice.
not an editor. That would be my first introduction to another Black female, um, where, she chooses actors. Um, I'm trying to think. Rosewood,
Mhm.
I'm going to film now. Rosewood, Lindsay was the first African American female dialogue editor that we worked together on that show. But we didn't work together after that. She worked more in TV, I was more in film. And that was the only reason why. Um, there aren't that many of us, unfortunately, in sound, and there still aren't, even between here and New York. Don't know about Atlanta, but I do know, I think on two hands you could probably have is that's how many sound editors.
I was My follow-up question after hearing you answer that was gonna be, how many can you name? Because I think I can only name you and Jesse Dodd.
Okay, so Jesse is an ADR mixer.
Okay.
He's not an editor, ADR mixer. So it's myself, Greg Hedgepath. Oh, gosh, I don't want to.
Okay.
Pam Demetrius. Yeah, I'd have to like look into that because I don't know all the TV people.
Okay.
I think there's maybe a few more. Ken Johnson is in film. There's a few more in television, but not that many in sound at all.
Okay.
Uh, Rob Fernandez. This is just for, I don't know if it's being recorded. Anyway, just so you know, Rob Fernandez is a re-recording mixer. He's at Harbor
Okay.
in Mhm. Glenfield Payne. I'll have to give you a list. I'm going to send it to you.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Um, what how do you feel about being seen as a role model? I don't know if you feel like people see you as a role model.
No,
You don't think so?
I don't. I guess I just do. I just do. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? I don't. I think as I get older, and I mentor people and things like that, I guess I don't think of it as a role model. I guess I just do what I do. You know what I mean? It's like mentoring and helping. I'm on several committees now at the academy, and for me, it's just about giving back. It always has been. Um, so I just look at it that way.
I love
I
that.
just want, you know.
Awesome. Um, okay, so why do you think there still aren't a lot of Black people and even women in sound? Is it mainly because people just don't know that post-production sound is a thing, or do you feel it's more of a gatekeeping thing and it's hard for certain people to get into?
I would say it would be all of that. I think that certainly a lot of people don't know what we do. And so at the moment, like I said, I serve on several committees in different companies, and so everybody is trying to help with that part. Doing like careers, like a career panels, doing workshops, things like that to get into the community so that they can see, because there's so much talent there, and because we're behind the scenes, people just don't know what we do.
Yeah.
And so, there's a lot of people that are trying to um, change that. I think the other thing that's happening also, it has been sort of a gateway, very hard to get in. I think for me, and when I started as an apprentice, I got a lot of work, right? As an assistant, I got a lot of work, a first assistant, I got work. As I started to edit, it became a little less work.
Mm,
And as I supervised, there was even more or less work.
mm,
We get kind of caught in the middle where, that's the thing about, as African Americans, we don't really know what we're doing, or, excuse me, it might be how we speak, or, that kind of thing that people feel that we can't do. And so you get kind of caught in between, a white person, which to say, they're not going to hire you, or they're going to hire someone else. And then you have a black director that maybe doesn't hire you because he feels that black people don't know what they're doing,
mm,
so they don't trust you. So it's a we just kind of get caught, like in this, I don't know, in this thing. It's like hard sometimes to break out. And I think that as people of color, we deal with so much every day of our lives anyway. And then to go into a field where people are not appreciating who you are, or seeing past the exterior to see the gifts that's inside of you, is like something that, people just don't want to deal with. They deal with enough every day. And so I think it's up to us that have been in the industry for a while to really kind of mentor people and help them get around, the industry. Like I've mentored people that are not in sound.
mm,
One is a director, and she just really needed some encouragement and some guidance, and really how to get around, and how to think, well, think about, well, let's do this first and see how that works. And then let's go to this step and that step, so there's that kind of thing that really needs to happen as well. So I just really believe that things are changing. I think that more, because I used to work with inner city filmmakers here, and I haven't worked yet with Ghetto Film School, but they have like these right. So they have like summer projects for like 6 to 8 weeks. These programs, and so we help them with their project and give them advice and stuff like that. And then afterwards, we try to get them work as interns, or apprentices and stuff like that in different companies. And so, there just needs to be a few more programs like that, so that we can kind of change things. And I think that the more that people work with these youth, that they understand that they're very gifted, and they change, because it's like their mind and their hearts, need to change. And I think they really don't realize how they might perceive another person.
yeah.
And I think that's part of the challenge. But there's certainly, like, a lot of places are now doing unconscious bias
Mm,
training, where, and it's good for everybody,
yeah.
black and white.
Yeah.
It's good for everybody, because we all have something that we didn't realize was really there on the inside. And so I really believe that things are changing a bit.
That's amazing. I got teary-eyed listening to that whole speech. Certain things you said really hit me. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
It's hard. I have to say, it's not been easy. We were on a panel, and there's a few of us were on a panel the other day, and we were just talking about things that have been said to us, through our career, and that people just don't think. It's like one of them, and these are things I think that it would be good to share with younger people coming up, so that they, just, you got to let stuff roll off, and realize that most of the time people just don't understand what they've just said to you. Like I had this orange and white running suit.
Mhm.
It was my favorite. So I wore it to work. I get there, went over to the coffee station, and somebody was there, work wise. And, it's like, hi, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. And the person said to me, oh, so I see you were working on the side of the road this morning before you got to work. You see what I mean? So in your brain, you're just like shocked that something like that just happened.
Yeah.
But you have to understand that people, instead of going, and attacking that, really understanding like this person just really doesn't get what they just said was wrong.
Yeah.
Because maybe in their mind they thought something else, but coming to the person, that's not how you took it. And unfortunately, I never wore the jogging suit again.
Oh.
But so I think, even talking to people, young ones coming up, young ones, me, like 30s, 40s coming up to say, hey, if anything happens, something weird is being said, text me, say, hey, what do I do about this? Or, you know what I mean? Because I think that that's important when you have somebody that you can kind of talk to. I think it helps a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome. Thank you. Um,
so get ready.
yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Like I said, you're in a good place because, like they say, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere.
That's true. I hope so. Thank you.
We'll get that thick skin, you know.
Awesome.
It's a
Cool.
good.
Okay, I think I only have like four more questions left.
Okay.
Okay, so you were nominated for an Emmy for the Netflix show When They See Us. Um how did that accomplishment feel, and what about the Sound's editorial process made that show special for you?
I just, it meant a lot to me because we don't, people of color, get to work on projects necessarily that we would really love to work on. I mean, Greg and I worked on all of John Singleton's films except for the very first one,
Mhm.
right, for boys. And so all of his projects are great. So it's not, anything like, but other projects that we may, because people are like, well, just because you're black doesn't mean you should work on this.
Work
You
on
know what I
it.
mean? It's like, but those kind of things are like, oh my gosh, I just love the fact that I was able to participate on that film, on that TV limited series. And the episode 4 where he's in jail, and that breathing and all that stuff, it just, because you know what I mean, because that's another one of those creative things. I worked in dialogue. I didn't work on ADR on that one. But you still had to clean up the dialogue, you still had to make that breathing work, and it's all that intensity of it. um, I went to Netflix had a thing where they showed part of the limited series, but they had the original guys. They had the actors who played them. And I mean, that was so powerful to be in that room. I didn't get a chance to meet them, and it's fine, but just to be in that room, being, that part of, sitting and seeing history right there,
Yeah.
it was just so much important. And it was just so important to me. I got chills, just being in the room. And the young ones, right? So you had the young ones, the younger of the guys,
Mhm.
then you had them that played them older, and then you had the actual guys. It was powerful.
Amazing. I
Uh, I just like, I was able to work on Madam C.J. Walker, self-made,
Mhm.
and that was also because it's history. It's our history.
Yep.
And it's so, to me, important that we can tell our story.
Exactly. Yep.
It's like I want to tell. It's like I want to tell our story.
Yes.
Give me a chance to tell our story,
Yes.
and it's so impactful. You know, I don't know. I
Mm,
just hope that, more of it, it just doesn't always, happen.
yeah.
Mm.
I'm so moved right now. You have no idea. Amazing. Okay, so you worked on the original Coming to America
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
and you got to work on the new one.
Yeah.
How does it feel to not only live long enough to be able to like see that happen, but to also be asked to come back and work on the same movie twice? You know, like does that feel like some type of accomplishment? And also, how hard was it the second time compared to the first time?
Well, the first time I actually was an assistant, and
Okay.
I was an ADR assistant, but I did get to go to the ADR stage. With Jim Bashir's was the supervisor, ADR supervisor. So, but I mean, I just loved the film, the original ones, and um, I got it. Just was a lot of fun. So when this came around, because we had worked with Craig Brewer just on Dolomite
Mhm.
when this one came around, right? And so he mentioned, I might be doing Coming to America too. And I go, what? Are you kidding? I was so excited, right? Because there's not been another film like it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's just like the greatest. It was comedy. I loved all the guys in the barbershop, all of Eddie's characters. You know what I mean? It was just great. And I'm in love with Saul, the little Jewish guy. And so it was really, really great to work on this. And because this one I got to supervise the ADR. The
Awesome.
dialogue and the ADR. So it meant even more to me because I was even more part of the project, and so and it won't disappoint. That's the
Oh,
other,
great.
well, because sometimes you just never know.
Yeah.
When you have a sequel come around, you just never know. But this will not disappoint.
Awesome. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Um, okay. Of all of the films you've worked on, which one is your favorite and why?
I don't have a favorite.
Okay.
Because they're all different. There's a different story with each film. Whether it's working with working with an actor like on Rosewood. I worked with an actor who is just a perfectionist. And what he would do after each take, he didn't get it right. He'd throw his headset down, right? And I was like, okay, because I'm just watching, right? So he's throwing his thing down. And so, sometimes you have to figure actors out, right? And so he had, I was saying, oh, we just need to do it one more time, and you need to change this. And so he recorded it again and he got it. It was perfect. But I didn't want to let him know because he had been giving me a hard time. So when we played it back, and then, so he throws it and then he sits down and he watches, right? So we played it back and he's like, he looked over me, he said, what do you think? And I was like, and he goes, what? Like this. And I go, it was perfect, right? And so after that, that was it. We just bonded at that point. You know what I mean? So you have to figure these actors out, like what's gonna, what works with them. Some people like to antagonize and you got to antagonize back. And it's just like a game and stuff like that. So each project is totally different. There's different, working with directors are different, you know what I mean? And so I don't know that I really have a favorite. I just, like A League of Their Own, right? No Crying in Baseball. So I was an ADR editor on that, but one of my reels had that No Crying in Baseball, where Tom Hanks is yelling at the girl and she's like crying. And so that was special to me because I got to cut the crying. Like I mean, I cut the whole scene and that whole area with him yelling at her. But the thing is, again, crying, you got to pick, like, you got to look at the throat, you got to look at her eyes and see, just listening for the sounds, like, that doesn't work for that, and that doesn't work for that. And, just picking out the right elements for that whole crying thing, and, so just like I said, just different things, like Straight Outta Compton, the concert scene, right? You got the concert scene going into the riot scene. We recreated the crowds along with the effects crowds. And then when you went outside, the riots, all the people, we had to re-record those, all those people screaming, all the cops, that whole scene was all group people. Wow. And the actors, the guys, are re-recorded as well, because there was so much noise and so much over top of each other, you couldn't understand what people were saying. So we recreated that whole thing. So when you're on the stage, right, and before it gets, goes into the theater, and you can sit there and just feel like you're at the concert. You feel the intensity of the riot scene. It's powerful. So that's why I said, it's like everyone has something different. I can't say that I have a favorite.
Awesome. Okay, so like the closing out two questions. So in the next 10 or 20 years of your career path, what are certain types of projects or certain like genres of projects that you would like to start working on more?
I don't have a.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It just, I think one thing is a lot more historical pieces, maybe. Just because, you just really want to be a part of that. I just think it's really important, to do. But other than that, no, I just like to, and we put 150% into everything we do. So, every project is just as important as the other one.
And have you ever turned down a lot of work offers? And if so, has it been for reasons other than you didn't have time to work on the projects?
I've not turned anything down. Just recently, unfortunately, have had to, because the projects overlap with each other. But other than that, no.
Okay, cool. And who usually called you first for the job? Do you get called by directors, or is it the producer that calls you for jobs?
It's mostly the director that requests us. It can be the post-production supervisor, producers and things. If we've worked with the director or the film editor before, they can request us.
Okay, awesome. And last question, what are your like self-care routines and your hobbies, especially this year?
Self-care. I like to drive a lot, right? That's like my kind of getaway thing. But during this COVID thing, and being home, I have those DIY projects. So have a patio. And so I started gardening. Like I had strawberries, little cherry tomatoes, poblano peppers, right? So every morning I go and I talk to them. You know what I mean? So it's like, so now I have a new project that I'm gonna do, which is cement cinder blocks. Those big,
Yeah.
with the holes. So I'm gonna make a succulent garden with those. It's like a wall with the cinder blocks that kind of go in and out. So that's my new DIY project that I'm gonna do.
Okay, that's cute.
As like I said, I'm a creative person, so I've just been figuring out, just different things to do to keep myself busy, but then, just to be able to relax at the same time and just, have some peace. And so, yep, I can't.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, let me stop the recording.